Rabbi Ricardo Di Segni, sitting from Rome during this festival of Passover. Rabbi Di Segni, you are Chief Rabbi of the Community of Rome, radiologist, medical doctor by profession, now full-time rabbi. You've been sitting at the epicenter, at the heart of this outbreak of corona, having to practice religion in very, very difficult times and having to practice your leadership in very, very difficult times. When one day a historian looks back at how faith operated under corona conditions, your voice will be an important one as a testimony to maintaining faith and trying to work around difficult, even desperate conditions. Please, Ricardo, could you share with us your experiences in what it is to run a community and the challenges that have been placed upon your path as a consequence of this coronavirus?
Our community is facing two kind of main problems. The first problem is as any other citizen of this country who sharing the difficulties, the fears, the solitude, the organization of every day, and economic problem and so on. The second group of problem is the problem of being Jew in these difficult times, especially when you are in times of Jewish holidays. We started having this problem that before, 1 month before, already in Purim we had a lot of problems. I see from a religious point of view. These are problems of holidays and personal problems, marriages, bar mitzvahs.
It's not clear to all the viewers. What do you mean by problems with the holidays? What are the problems with the holidays?
According to the holidays, in Jewish religion, we have to spend these times together. Being together is a fundamental part of the celebration. Together in the synagogue, together in the families, together in the school, with the children, with the elder people. And the first effect of this epidemic is that it splits the families, splits the community, doesn't give the possibility to pray together in a minyan. And even the most private ceremonies, like those in the home, you have to do them separately. So this is a very difficult challenge to rethink all religious life, how to manage it. I can make a comparison with what happens with the Christian. From the very beginning of this situation, every gathering has been forbidden, but the state allowed to keep open the churches. And people go to the churches, but to make the mass is forbidden. But at least people can go to the church and pray privately. The problem is that in the Jewish religion, this personal experience is secondary to the experience that we make together. In order to have a full prayer, a significant prayer, you have to be together. You need a minyan. You need a quorum of 10 adults. So the experience to go to an holy place is different according to the religion. And this hosts especially the way the Jews pray.
Let me query you on this. Don't Jews have their private prayers? Don't Jews recite psalms? Don't Jews turn to God in individual prayer? When there is no minyan, can't Jews pray on their own? There's a very strong dimension of private prayer. There's a sense from what you described that as soon as we don't have the public prayer, we lose all aspects of prayer, and it almost sounds like Christians are better off because they have private prayer like we don't. So it sounds like Jews aren't doing so well spiritually if they don't know how to pray on their own. You don't mean that, do you?
No, I didn't mean that. I mean that there are two different kinds of prayer, looking from this point of view. And you have the private prayer and you have the public prayer. And there is a special value in the public prayer. Everybody joins the public, and this public may be or must be even composed by sinners and tzaddikim and
Righteous people.
other people. And altogether, the sins of everybody are mixed, are sublimated. This doesn't happen in the private prayer. So you can pray all the day by yourself. It's a very positive value. But it's not the same thing. So I don't want to cancel the value of the private prayer. But there are also other values.
So the synagogues are closed, or are the synagogues open for private prayer like the churches are open for private prayer?
No, we decided that from the morning of Purim to close everything, because it is very complicated to let 10 people go in and let the other people outside. There are also problems of movement in the street. There is in Italy a problem of being safe, so we put guards on in front of the synagogue checking the people. So it's going to be difficult to make a limited number of people go in, other people to be pushed out. In Israel, I have seen movies that since there was not possible absolutely to make any kind of discipline on this point, they preferred to close.
Okay,
and
so
I have the pressure because many people think that we must open again. So it's a very delicate situation.
would you say that the balance between opening the synagogues and keeping them closed, in fact, reflects the balance between the value of private prayer in a synagogue and public prayer? That is to say, the reason to open would be to allow private prayer at least, or those two questions are unrelated?
No, the reason to open to be to allow a little minyan to be done.
A small prayer quorum, I understand. So if the situation then overall is one in which really the foundations of religious life as practiced, not theology, but as practice, are falling apart because the way you describe it, all of Judaism is based on a sense of togetherness in the community, in the family. One doesn't practice Judaism alone. One practices Judaism with others. So what are you able to offer your community as spiritual guidance for a time when they can't have this togetherness?
This could be a good challenge to understand the values of being isolated. Because when you pray in public, you stay together, someone recites the prayer for you, and maybe you are not careful about what you are saying. You are sustained by other people. In a private experience, all depends on you, on your strength, on your intention, on your understanding. And normally, we should suppose that this understanding is the premise of a good prayer, even in public. So this is a good exercise to discover what we normally don't think about.
So it's a kind of blessing in disguise, really.
Absolutely, we have to find a blessing even in the worst times, and this is one of the way.
Are you and your colleagues helping to instruct people in prayer so that they can actually cultivate this aspect of deeper understanding and deeper engagement in prayer during these times? Is this part of your educational efforts at the moment?
What we discovered in these times as an incredible surprise is that people are interested in an incredible way to learn. So we offered lesson at all times and on all kinds of subjects. And the reply of the public was exceptional. Normally, when you give a shiur lesson in a synagogue, you may have 100, 200, or in a school, you may have 20, 30 people. Now that you can count the people who are listening you with Zoom or Facebook or what else, you see that the number are absolutely incomparable with the previous number. So you give a lesson now to 500 people.
Wow.
So the incredible discovery of these times that through the media and making a good use of the time, of the capabilities, you can reach many people that you never dreamed about them.
So this is part of what we call Talmud Torah, learning Torah, which is a very profound Jewish value. So you're saying that this value is growing, but are you able to also give instructions in prayer and classes in prayer? Do you have any echoes from people about their prayer experience during this time?
In these recent times, we had two kinds of experience on this point. The first experience is a specific course on the prayer with all the explanation on the basic prayer. What does it mean a prayer? What does it mean a private prayer? And so on. So giving an explanation of the meaning of the single prayer of the prayer in general. And this was one solution. Another solution was to make digital minyanim. Many people gather and pray together, even if they can say Kaddish and Baruch Hu, but they pray together. There is a strong sense of commitment to this. I have seen many minyanim like them.
How many people have attended these digital minyanim?
It's difficult to evaluate, but there are many. There are many of them, and many people attending them.
More than people would normally attend regular?
I think no, maybe less.
Maybe less. But that doesn't solve your problem for Shabbat. And the main time for the community gathers is Shabbat and festival.
And you know all the controversy about the Seder with Zoom.
Yeah. Did the community take a particular stand on this?
As usual, everybody did as he wanted. The majority of Italian rabbis say that it is not allowed. I needed to explain this. I also reflected on the meaning of this. This question it's not a question of a digital time. It's a question of very old. When you study the laws about the sound of the shofar, there is an halakha which says that if you listen the echo of the shofar, you do not fulfill the mitzvah. If you listen the shofar together with the echo, you can get. It means that in the thinking of Chazal, there is a specific value in not mediate transmission of some messages, which can be reading of the Torah, which can be the sound of the shofar. There is no intermediate. There is no way of reproduction. It is the same thing that when you go to a synagogue, you listen the reading of the Torah, not from a normal book. We thank God for the invention of the printed books. They multiplicated the knowledge. They multiplicated the knowledge of the Torah. But when you go to the synagogue, you need a scroll written physically, word, letter by letter. The imitation, the transmission is a different thing. And you may distinguish, you may understand the difference which is between study Torah, that you can do very well with Zoom, and listening to the prayer, which is different. Walter, the famous philosopher, Walter Benjamin, who was a friend of Gershom Scholem, wrote a paper about the fruition, the fruition of art, of paintings in an era which is with the copies are available. So if you go to the Louvre to see Mona Lisa, it's an experience. If you take a book with a reproduction of Mona Lisa, it's a different experience. If you buy a copy of Mona Lisa, put it in your room, you can see Mona Lisa. But this Mona Lisa, how much what's the value? So there is a difference. So this is the same category, the same explanation.
So all of this means that you therefore decided against the Zoom option for Pesach, and for that's all the reasoning why you felt it wasn't authentic. Is that where you're leading?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I understand that. So going then back to
in some religious experience, you need to be authentic. Not all, in some.
So you're going through a period. You're describing that your biggest challenge in the community has been then to maintain practice and its authenticity. It's been an invitation in some ways to grow in personal prayer, and it's been an opportunity to grow in learning, but all this against the background of broader communal dysfunction. Is this a fair summary of what you've said so far?
Yes.
Okay.
But there are also very important social problems.
So explain what you mean, and if you can get closer to the microphone to explain it. Explain what you mean when you say an important social problem.
Social problems, it means that there are many people who cannot go out of their home. They are isolated. They need the food, medicine, and what else. They need also to be approached, consolated, sustained by relatives. And all this is difficult, it's not impossible. But the social problem is how to give assistance to all these people. This is the problem of today. The problem of tomorrow will be how can people who lose their job, who didn't gain money for a couple of months and so on, how can they can manage to arrive to the end of the month? Every activity has been destroyed, and you can destroy in 2 minutes and build in some years.
So, are there solutions to these problems?
Well, the technical solution is called tzedakah.
Charity.
Charity is not the right word to
How would you
translate.
describe it?
Maybe social justice.
Mutual social support, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, mutual social support. So, in all this, where's your role as the leader of a community? I mean, how do you understand your job, your task, your mission at this point in time?
First of all, there is a great responsibility and very difficult decision to be made.
I've only heard one difficult decision, to close the synagogues. What other difficult decisions have you had?
What to allow for Pesach, what to forbid for Pesach, what to do with the burials.
Whether to bury dead people on the second day of Yom Tov, you mean?
This is we solved. We didn't have, we were ready for this, but normally all the ceremonies cannot be kept. The tahara is not possible, not allowed.
The purification of the body, yeah.
Everything is complicated.
How many deaths have you had in your community?
Normally, it's about 2, 3 in 1 week.
And now?
The same. No, we had in our community we had a couple of deaths related to this virus. In Milan, that is the eye of the cyclone. There they had many losses.
So, okay, so you were saying there were challenges, but you were reflecting on your role in the midst of all this. So how do you understand your role as a leader during these times?
I see that people need to feel that they have a point, a central point to refer, to speak with him, to ask for solutions, to ask for maybe moral consolation and so on. People need it. We did a huge effort, all the leadership of the community, to work on this. We opened a telephone line for difficulties, and we managed to have many voluntaries distributing the food and so on in the city and out the city. So we wanted to make the idea of community as a structure which is at the help of the people.
So I hear, in the course of this conversation, I've heard 3 different functions. One function is educational. The second function is halachic, making rules, decisions. And now you seem to be introducing what apparently is the most important, which is the pastoral, human support, psychological support role of the rabbi in times of crisis. That
Not
now
only
you said that this,
not only the rabbi. The rabbi cannot be everything, but you have to sit with other people and to find solution together to complicated problem.
tell me, do you see, in terms of the function of the religious leader in these times? I mean, you're a 3-minute drive from the Vatican. We know that there was an exchange of courtesy greetings on Passover Eve, Easter Eve, between you and the Pope. Do you see, so you're aware of what's going on in the Christian community around you. Do you see your role as a leader as similar or different to what the Christian leadership is going through?
First of all, the numbers are not the same, absolutely not. Switching on the television, you see the Pope in each instant speaking, make ceremonies, and so on. Our role is very limited in this field. We communicate with our community through papers on Facebook and so on. But I have seen with the surprise that some messages from our community are very very respected and listened by the most general community. I gave at the eve of Pesach a 5 minutes message on this special Pesach, talking about the Ark of Noah and the kind of isolation and so on, 5 minutes. And I have seen that up now there have been more than 16,000 listening. 16,000, which goes much farther from the potential of our community. So our messages, religious messages, are spread in the wider field.
So this is a good time to move to those. I think we have a very good grasp of your challenges, and let me wish you continuing inspiration and emotional, intellectual, and financial strength to continue serving your community in all the ways we discussed. Let's move on now really to the religious messages, because you've just spoken about this message you gave last week, using the Ark of Noah as a metaphor for solitude. And facing solitude is a big challenge that everyone has. I know that message was given in Italian, so therefore it's useless for viewers of this interview to reference them. Could you give us the gist of that message of what is it that you tell people how to face solitude? What is the spiritual message of solitude that you've been offering?
When the Jews went out of Egypt, the army of the Pharaoh followed them with chariots, with horses. So where those horses came from, if not from the houses of the people who had the fear of God. So fear of God is not enough.
So what do you need more? Love of God? What do you need beyond fear of God?
Our relation with God needs fear, but they need also love, enthusiasm, and commitment. Fear of God means you don't make any dangerous things because He will punish you. You also do good things in order to show that you love Him.
Okay, and how is that a lesson for people who are locked in their houses today?
To spend their time to understand what's the meaning of our lives. What's the meaning of our life? What are you doing every day? Going around and around and around. What are you doing?
Right.
For what?
So this becomes a time of reflection on the meaning of life. And if I understand correctly, your program of studies is there to help people to start think about those issues. So if so, that's a wonderful educational opportunity that you now have to invite people to reflect on the meaning of life because of these circumstances.
Yes, that's it.
So that then leads to another question. You'd spoken about the fact that Judaism is practiced in community, and one of the values of community is solidarity. So how, if you're locked up and all you have is Zoom, how do you express your solidarity within the community?
Organizing people, answering to them, to all the questions, calling them. There are many ways.
That's how you practice, but how do the people who are inside their houses, how can they show solidarity to others?
They make the same thing.
Same thing.
They call, they speak, they do, they care.
When you think of the solidarity that the Jewish community in Rome is able to manifest, is it within the Rome community? It's within the broader Jewish community? It's within the broader Italian community, beyond religion? How do the different parameters of solidarity and community find expression in these times?
Well, first of all, solidarity in our community is not closer to the Jewish community. We manage to share our belongings with other people. For example, we had some flour we didn't use for cakes, and we gave this flour to an organization who works with sick people. We had very rare things in these times, which is the masks. So we had samples of a mask we gave it to hospitals or police and so on. So everything that we have, we used to share.
Sharing. Yeah, you know what? I've heard this in different interviews. How sharing has become an important feature of this particular period. Tell me, people. You mentioned earlier that there's fear. You mentioned the fear that pretty soon there'll be poverty increasing. People, of course, are afraid of the plague. What spiritual advice do you offer people when they deal with their fears?
It's very difficult. There's not penicillin that you give that you are sure about the results, more or less. But the messages are that if we survive it up now, we will keep on surviving. And life is done of different things. It's a wave. It's not a plain line, a straight line. And I can tell you that looking at the story or the general history of our particular history, we had very much bad moments in our story.
In other words, this is not the worst moment in time, and we draw strength by remembering that we got through the previous moments.
Yeah.
This is like
the first thing I did when everything started is to translate into Italian the memories of a rabbi and doctor of the Jewish Rome in the 16th century. His name was Zahalon. There is an hospital, something like this, in his name. And he was the rabbi and doctor during the plague in Rome in 1656. The first thing that the authorities did in that moment was to close the gate. And the mortality in the ghetto was higher than the other mortality in Rome. But we are talking about 20% of death in the absolute population of the Jews in Rome. 20% of deaths, that means that there were 800 deaths in a few months. Make a comparison with today, we never arrive Baruch Hashem, to this.
Figures.
They, anyway, took this as a tragedy, but they continued to survive.
Any other inspirations from Tzahalon that give people spirit other than just the precedent? Anything he could say or teach that was relevant for today?
One particular story is that they were not allowed to go to the synagogue. So rabbis opened the windows of their home and spoke to the people in the street.
Like today.
Like today.
Like today. This is the phenomenon. We've become a balcony religion.
Yes. Well, you know, the Pope speaks from the balcony, but we don't use it.
Well, so this actually brings me to the question, if the Pope speaks from the balcony and the rabbi speaks from the balcony, or the Pope speaks from the internet and the rabbi speaks from the internet, so that really goes back to my previous question of the comparison with the other religions. And you said the difference really is one of numbers, and that's understandable. But in the same way that they have received teaching from you, and multiplied your teaching, has there been anything coming to the Jewish community from the Catholic community, either by way of support, friendship, teaching, something that expresses solidarity and friendship across communities?
I think that at the moment, the most significant teaching comes from the level of organization of the supporting charities.
Could you explain that?
How they work, how they are perfectly organized and reaches a lot of people in need and so on.
So their example is an example for you how to more efficiently organize your own activities. What lessons, what have you learned from this experience? What have people taught you? What have circumstances taught you? What lessons do you take from this from the past 6 weeks?
That you are not certain about your life. Never. Everything may change in a few moments.
Yeah.
And you must find the strength to afford it.
And what is the source of your strength?
It may be your education or your character, or your behavior, what you study, your role.
Do you pray more in these days?
Not more.
No.
A little bit more. I just add the specific prayers. Specific.
What do you mean? What do you mean specific prayers?
Pitum Aktoret.
I see. So you're adding some specific prayers contra the plague. I understand. Yeah. I too, by the way, I do the same. I think that's true for me as well. What will the Jewish community in Rome, or what will the world look like when COVID-19 is over?
The day after.
Yeah, the day after. What will it look like the day after?
Who knows? I just hope that it will be better.
Just hope that we'll be better?
Yes.
Last question. We spoke earlier on the phone, and I asked you, how are we doing? You said, I cry a lot. I know it's not comfortable to share this on the video, but if there's something you could tell us about this, I cry a lot, I think people realize, where your heart is located.
Well, you asked me what are you doing now, and I replied quietly with a joke, because you must be also very light, always. not too sad, not too complicated. Well, I have to explain a point of view from a diaspora point of view. In Pesach, we have traditional difficulties to find the right food. In Israel, you go to the super, you can find everything. In Italy, it's difficult, so you have only the main things.
Oh, you mean in Israel you find everything, but in Italy it's difficult, yeah.
So practically, this is translated in a bulimic way of managing these days, that you always go to eat what is possible to eat, because you feel that the food is not enough. This is a false feeling. So when you ask me what I am doing, we are eating. So, but anyway, this is a spiritual meaning, because even eating for Jews is a spiritual experience, and just a sign that life go on.
Right. So that's our hope. Our hope is that life goes on. So I pray with you and for you that life will go on in the best possible way, and that the community will be strong, and that as part of the testimony of how we see that people are responding and the inspiration, your words will also be carried in the same way they were carried before to those 16,000 viewers. Hopefully through this conversation, others will also benefit from your experience during these times. Thank you for giving us this time together.
It was a pleasure, man. And be very careful about your health.
This you're saying as a rabbi or as a doctor?
Both.
Both.